And if you've been liking any of the content on here, just feel free to subscribe. Either way, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching.
Custodes are back. Finally got our 4-up Feel No Pain against Devastating Wounds. We've been waiting for that for months now, since the last Dataslate had really made us very susceptible to pitter-patter Devastating Wounds. Yes, everyone else can get killed by Devastating Wounds, but our things were very expensive, our units were small, so if you lost a couple models to Devastating Wounds, it was very detrimental to your playstyle, really. You couldn't push very hard, you had to kind of cower behind things and hope not to get shot. It really brings the viability. It really allows you to have fun and bring dreadnoughts again, and Forge World stuff. None of the Forge World stuff went down, but being able to not get Devastating Wounded off the table as you're moving your slow old Movement 6 Dreadnoughts up the table, much better. You can have a lot more fun, a lot more variation in your list. Surprisingly, even though only a few units got point reductions, that 4-up Feel No Pain against Devastating Wounds now really helps the army in so many ways. And then the FAQ finally for Trajan's ability and other abilities about ignoring modifiers. Yes, he ignores minus the damage, half damage, anything minus his AP. Any modifiers done to Trajan or his unit can be ignored if you choose. So you can ignore -1 damage, but you don't want to ignore +1 to hit or anything like that. Finally, so there's no more one tournament says yes you can, one tournament says you can't, because it really makes Trajan's unit able to punch up into those -1 damage, those half damage units, changing it. So not even changing it, just clarifying it. So yes, he does ignore damage modifiers. The Feel No Pain, it might not seem like a big difference, but it really does. Like, I was playing against Chaos Space Marines a couple weeks ago, and Abaddon and his units of Terminators shot into my 5 Terminators. The anti-infantry combi weapons with Devastating Wounds. I lost 4 Terminators before Abaddon even charged them. With the 4-up, I would have even had 3 Terminators left. And I didn't even bother using Fight First there, because what's one Terminator going to do to Abaddon and 5 Terminators? But 3 Terminators, I could have done some damage. You never know, some spikes, either way. But it does also bring the question of, what about the Codex? Really, in my opinion, they should try to maybe bake a 5-up Feel No Pain into just the army detachment, or just the army rule with the Custodes, and then just make the index one with the 4-up. I think that would be able to still give your units a little bit of staying power against Devastating Wounds. And then maybe, just for example, you could have a detachment that gives you +1 move. You have a stratagem that gives you advance and charge. It's not a battle tactic. All your battle tactics would be like reactionary defensive ones. And you wouldn't have Fight First anymore. +1 to move would help your dreadnoughts. It would help some of your foot infantry. You wouldn't be as tanky against mortal wounds. But it'd still be something different, and it wouldn't be so bad that, like, ugh, if I don't have the 4-up against mortal wounds and Devastating Wounds, what are they going to do? The Codex will kind of hopefully bake some of these protection against mortals and devastating into the actual army instead of detachments. So now I'm just going to go over the changes to the units, just the points, and what the change to the army detachment actually means for some of these units. First off, we have the Custodian Guard. These are way more viable now. Now you don't have to worry about them just getting shot off the board by Devastating Wounds. You can run them in 4s now, you can run them in 5s. I have a lot of 4s in my list now. You throw some spears on them, you can throw a Vexilla on them if you want to make them OC3. Having some of these on the board now adds a lot more pressure and just adds more units on the board. The Custodian Guard got a 5 per model point reduction, so that's going to make a big difference for list building. I, for myself, took out my Venatari just to fit more of these guys in there. It really helps fill out your list more, being able to take Custodian Guard again. And then we have the Terminators. Usually quite a staple in most of my lists, and most of a lot of other people's Custodians lists. They're still amazing. The 5 point per model reduction really helps them as well, but they're not quite as the end-all be-all now, because now the Custodian Guards aren't as smushy and killable. You can actually run them now and don't always just need to run the Terminators just in hopes of the 1 extra wound and the 1 extra toughness. Now you can actually use them for their purpose. Just, okay, there's a monster on the board, or a character unit on the board, I'll send these guys after that. You don't just have to fill your list full of these and hopefully people devastating wound them off the table. They are still just as viable, but not as spammy as used to. You can actually fill your list full of other things now. Still a great unit, still will be in my list, but not as auto-include in my opinion anymore. Then we have the Wardens. Once again, I always have a unit of these in my list. They also got a 5 points per model reduction on now only 250 points for a unit of 5 of these. So I think I'm going to run 2 probably now. Run them with Valerian or something like that, or a Blade Champion. Also aren't as auto-include anymore, because you don't have to worry about relying on the once per game 4-up Feel No Pain to protect against a big volley of devastating wounds. You just have that baked into your entire army. So now you can use it more situational for other things, and you don't have to really fill your list full of these in hopes that you won't get killed. So they more have their jobs. Once again, the Custodian Guard really help now fill up your list and give you the option to take other things now. You can take some Custodian Guard just for holding on to objectives, and take some Dreadnoughts if you want now, because they won't just get devastating wound off the table. Wardens, still amazing, still will be in my list, but just like the Terminators, not as needed in every list anymore. Shield Captain on a bike, he got a big 40-point reduction. Still terrible. Still terrible, sadly. He's not bad by himself, but the unit you attach to just isn't good enough. And he's not the monster like he was in Knock that you can just run around with a Shield Captain on a bike and really just cause all kind of havoc on the table. He doesn't have a lone operative by himself, so he'll just fly around. He might get a charge off, do something important. He has a pretty cool movement ability. You can do it once per game, do a little bit of movement at the end of, I think, the fight phase. But once again, at 140 points, he's just not good. You put him with the bikes, and then now it's a 300-point unit. It's just not good enough still. Maybe if there's a detachment that allows you to put an enhancement to allow a character to be lone operative, he could be a lot better. But for now, he is still not that good. And we got the beautiful bikes. They get a 10-point per model reduction. With the Custodian Guard going down by 5 points, these are still 30 points more than a Custodian Guard. They don't get the +1 toughness that most other bikes get, so they're still just as tough as a Custodian Guard. They move 12, but with the fly keyword and the mounted keyword, you have to kind of go around train. You don't get to fly up over it. They're just not that good. They do have Lance, but it's the same spear profile as a Custodian Guard spear or a Terminator spear. So for 30 points more, it's just not good. The guns aren't good anymore. They're a strength 9, 1 shot, hit on 2, 3 damage, AP 2 or 3. It's just not enough. And then you could also take some Hurricane Bolters on them, but you already have enough bolters fired from your Custodian spears. You don't need to use bikes with bolters. So the bikes, sadly, once again, are going to probably stay on the shelf. Maybe in the Codex detachment they can add something that'll, I don't know, give them some toughness and some more speed or something. I'm not quite sure what you can do with these things. I think the whole sheet probably needs to be rewritten. I don't want them to be the terror that they were in 9th. I just want them to be, maybe add some, a little bit of anti-tank fire. So maybe if they were 75 points, you could even make them a little more expensive, even 85 points, but still have a decently anti-tank gun on there, because we don't have that many options of anti-tank other than just charging the darn things. That is pretty much the overview of the Dataslate for the Custodes. Like I said, the 4-up Feel No Pain against devastating wounds is massive. It will change so many things. The point reduction for our core units that we were using was unexpected, really. I didn't think the points would really change. I figured they would just change the detachment rule and that would be it. But 5 points reduction for all the core units is just amazing. It's really almost like they're trying to push out Forge World. Although, like I said, oddly enough, with the detachment rule change, you can run a lot more Forge World stuff and friendly matches and just have fun with the stuff instead of worrying about them just being devastated, wounded off the table. And the FAQ to Trajan is amazing. Not even Trajan, but just that ignore modifiers. I've been playing with it on and off for months, some tournaments, and sometimes I'd play, I wouldn't use it just to try it, or I just would feel, I would read a tournament ruling about them saying, hey, you can't use it that way, so I'd feel kind of like I was cheating if I used it. And then sometimes I would, like the LVO, I would read it, it would say, hey, yes, it does ignore modifiers. So the tournament I went to, I asked the TO, and he agreed that yes, he would ignore modifiers to damage and AP, but until it was really FAQ'd, I still kind of felt like I could possibly be cheating maybe, and I didn't like that feeling. Don't really want to do that to my opponents, and I don't want it to happen to me. So, yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's my Custodes overview, and I hope you guys really got some information out of it or just enjoyed the watch. And either way, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by.